Hello, good evening. I'm so glad we had this to look forward to tonight. I've spent the entire evening catching up on my finances. I'm getting ready to do my tax return, like as if lockdown 2 couldn't get worse. I have to do my tax return. And the worst thing about it is you're doing a tax return for a year that wasn't this year. So while sitting here with no money, no income, I'm totting up how much I've got to pay on the previous year, and I know that I've done all that work, so I should have put that money by and have that, but obviously I didn't. I bought a dog. So that's very depressing. And then I caught up on this year's finances, and it's a very sad story. But anyway, firstly, I would like to say thank you. I won't name names, but thank you to the very generous people who sent me a crazy amount of money on coffee yesterday. I'm so grateful to you guys. Thank you very, very much. It was so kind of you. I really appreciate everybody that sticks money in the coffee account. And it is not something you have to do if you're watching. I completely understand that there are a lot of us that are feeling the pinch this year, and sometimes it's not even a pinch, it's a fucking bash with a stick. So absolutely no pressure to do it, but thank you to those that can and did. I'm really grateful. I hope you're all right. I hope you've had a lovely day. What day is it today? It's Tuesday, isn't it? So there's no Bake Off spoilers, so don't worry about that because I haven't watched it yet, because I've been sitting up here. Although, fanfare for this little princess, I wrote 2,000 words of the new novel today. Whether or not they'll stay in the book, I don't know, but I started to pull together some ideas for that. It's been bubbling for a little while, and I've been like really wanting to get on and do it. And today I finally sat down and went, right, okay, we're gonna start setting a daily word target for those. So that novel is started. It's coming together. The characters are bubbling a little bit. So I'm really pleased with that. Thank you all for your lovely emojis and things happening in the comments. It feels nice to be writing on that because like these characters, so the novel's sort of probably going to be based on this TV show idea that I had that never really took off. And so it's really nice to be having these characters but exploring them in a fuller way, because I really like writing TV scripts and I'm getting better at it, but because it has to be quite tight, obviously, in order to work for the screen, and you don't write half the stuff that's going on. And I think the thing that I really love about books is that you're really in the characters' minds. Like I'm doing a little book club with my friends, and we did The Book Thief recently, which I don't know if you've read it. It's really good. It's great, but I didn't really like it. And the narration was amazing, and the some of the language in it was incredible, and there were sentences in there where I was almost like getting a notepad and writing them down to be like, wow, that's an incredible sentence, but I still didn't really care that much about the book. And I think what it was that it's narrated by a character that isn't one of the main characters, so it's neither a third person sort of omniscient or omnipresent. Do they mean the same thing? I don't know. Narrator who knows what the characters are thinking about, but neither do you really know their thoughts either. And so I just didn't care about it. So I've realized, like, for me, I'm really enjoying writing the book version of Pivot, because it gets to be, I get to get inside their head and explain it a bit more. And in scripts, you're not supposed to lead the actor too much. You're supposed to sort of let the speech do what it should do and let the actor do the acting. Obviously, that makes sense. But in the book, you just get to say, this is how she felt. And I'm quite enjoying that. I really like the emotions of people. So that's nice. I meant to look up what book it is I'm reading at the moment. But you know what? The book I'm listening to at the moment, which I'm also really enjoying, so if you need one, is The Second Sleep by Robert Harris. A really interesting premise. Oh, and a friend of mine who's a marvellous author who I adore. I love his socks off. His name is Caoimh McDonnell. Caoimh is spelled Caimh. I will put a link to this in the comments. I'm going to make a note to myself here. he writes books that I've loved for years. They're really funny Irish crime stories. They're so funny. They're so great. I've listened to them for years now. And he has put together a podcast of short stories that he's written. And he asked me to narrate one. And I was really happy to do it. Really, really grateful to do it. And I did. And I think it got released today. So if I can find a link, I'll add it. I really recommend Queeve's books. The first one is called A Man with One of Those Faces. And it's like, get the audiobook if you're well, of course you're into listening to stories, you're here. But I love them. And I narrated a short story for him and that has been released. I think it's the Stranger Tales podcast. Yeah, pronounced Queeve, but spelled Caimh. Like Neve, but with a qu. And he's so funny and really interesting and great. And so really pleased to have narrated that for him. So I'll see if I can find a link and share that. Right, on to our story. That's enough plug-in of other pitches and their creative works. No, I really love Queeve. When you have like an audiobook, and because he has the same narrator do them, when I get a new one of his, it's like a mate has come back to hang out. And I really love his books. Some big ramifications in yesterday's vote. Yeah, that's right. So you chose an age in Kate's life for something big to happen. And it's had quite a big effect. I suppose it's probably the smaller of the four effects. Of the four effects, this one was the sort of less exciting one, I suppose. I'll tell you the other ones after the chapter, but the event was always going to be the same. So I don't want you to get mad at me about the event, okay? The event was always going to be the same, but this is what's happened now. So we'll kick off with chapter 4. Kate slammed her purse, flask, and Tupperware into her satchel in a rage. How dare he treat her like that? She'd seen Professor Redford be perfectly civil to other members of the faculty, the other lecturers. That was the problem. She was beneath them, or so they thought. She didn't have the degrees they had or the lives they had. She could hear Polly's voice in her head. There's nothing making you work there. Polly was right, in some respects. There was nothing stopping Kate leaving and working somewhere that didn't make her feel like a teeny tiny failure. Only fear. Kate ran her hand down the banisters as she made her way to the car park in her beloved car. She looked at the walls of the university. I could have got a degree, she said out loud to the echoing silence, and then glanced about furtively to check no one had heard her talking to herself. She was right. There had been a point in her life when she was looking likely to get a degree. She was enrolled in university and studying for a degree in French. That's really very on track for getting a degree, however you want to look at it. Kate had really enjoyed her year in Newcastle studying. She'd settled in swiftly, met lots of friends, and the course was fun, difficult, and easy to fit in around the drinking. She'd not questioned any of it. Her family went to university and then became professors, and so did Kate. Then in November of her second year, her phone flashed up with a call from Polly. All right, Paul, Kate said between sips of coffee and furious frowns at her textbook. Kate, you all right? Listen, are you with anyone? Christ, no, Paul. I call you one time when I'm not even doing much more than snogging a guy, and now you... No, Kate, not like that. I just mean... Oh, God, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to book you a flight, Katie. This is where Kate caught her breath. Polly didn't call her Katie. Why do I need a flight, Paul? What's happened? She carefully put her pen down under the line she was working on, not knowing yet that she wasn't ever going back to that essay. Mum and Dad have had an accident, Kate. Polly didn't stumble with her words or hesitate. She was far too sensible for that. She spoke clearly and slowly and sadly, and Kate felt a chill running through her chest and down her arms. Their car hit black ice on the way into the university this morning. The Volvo? Kate would look back on asking that question for years to come. Volvo adverts were always set in Scandinavia. They weren't supposed to skid. That was the whole point. If they'd skidded on black ice, then they couldn't have been in the Volvo, could they? Yes, in their Volvo. It's a pretty bad crash and we need you to come home, Kate. Are they okay? It was a stupid question, but the English language seems to compress at times of crisis, leaving you only with inadequate questions that don't have good answers. No, they're not. They're not okay at all. There's a flight at 7 p.m. Have you got your passport and can you pack a bag? I'll book you on it right now and pick you up from Bristol when you land. Can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. Okay. Kate gave Polly all the information she needed, her voice feeling tinnier and further away with every detail. Paul, she said as they said their goodbyes, don't let them go without saying goodbye. Polly quietly promised she wouldn't, there and then on the phone. It wasn't until Kate landed in Bristol and hugged Polly across a handbrake in the express pick-up and drop-off that she gently told her that the Professor's Wilcox had already gone before Polly made the call. And that was it. That was the end of Kate's attempts to follow in the family footsteps. It was the end of her really following any path at all. She'd never gone back to Newcastle, not even to collect her things. After 3 months of badgering from Polly to go and get them, in which Kate had calmly tried to explain that if she could live without parents, she could live without a few clothes, Polly had got in the car and gone and got them herself. She'd slammed into the living room and looked at the puddle of Kate on the sofa and then burst into tears. Polly and Kate had lain together on the sofa watching Frasier and crying and laughing about everything. It was the last time Kate really remembered relating to Polly properly. Something had snapped in Polly. Life is short had become her mantra, and she'd gone into overdrive to grow up and get on and be very, very sensible. Kate felt the opposite. Some people's lives were short, but hers was feeling increasingly stretched out and long, with nothing that felt remotely satisfying in it to make her feel absorbed. TV shows came and went, and she watched the bright screen, felt nothing, and then went to bed. She tried to read, but the words whizzed past her eyes by her bored in-house narrator, and the story didn't mean anything except spellings. You should get therapy, Polly insisted, worried about her lackluster sister. But Kate shied away from it. It felt a bit Disney fix-it. She'd sit on the sofa and say, what's the point in getting invested if anything? What's the point in getting invested in anything if stuff can just vanish in an instant? And a therapist would say, well, what else are you going to do? Just while away the hours? And Kate would say, yeah, overall, what difference is a life doing that on flatline compared to a life doing ups and downs? It all comes out even. And the therapist would get a blank look in her eye and say, yeah, you're right. At Polly's insistence, Kate had got a job, and Kate had happily curled up in the university where her mum and dad had worked. It felt like she was near them a bit when she was there. As the years went on, her listless bubble had weakened, and the drive to live more fully had started to wake up again. Unfortunately, it manifested itself in buying things she didn't need and attaching herself to men that didn't interest her just so that she wouldn't have to be alone. But it was better than nothing, wasn't it? Her friends dwindled down to just Polly, and she just existed, day by day, fixing printers and smoking in stairwells. But her life wasn't going to stay like that forever. As she made her way down the staircase and through the empty hallways of the university, a flyer on a notice board caught her eye. It was such an unusual shade of purple paper, really very pretty. She stopped to read it. So yeah, sorry it was a bit heavy, but I felt like we needed to give her, why is she a mess? We needed to know why she's a mess. Tea, lovely tea. So you get to decide what happens on Thursday. What is a flyer publicising? So I think we can assume she's going to see this flyer. She might go. She might think about going. I don't know. Yeah, it was a bit heavy. Sorry about that, everyone. Somebody said in the comments, please don't make it heavy. And I was already like halfway through going, it might be a bit heavy, but it's not going to stay. It's not going to be a heavy story, I don't think. So you get to decide what's this flyer? What's catching her eye? What's bumping her out of her days? So is it going to be a play? A book group? Oh, that's very, it's a bit meta, isn't it? A book group with a book group. A play, a book group. Oh, well, do you know what? I like the idea of a seance. No, I shan't add that because you'll just all vote for it and then this book will get weird. I I do quite like it. A play, a book group, sea swimming, night classes, or a bring and buy sale. Those are your options. A play, it could be a play about a seance. Let's put in brackets, about a seance. There we go. Is it a play about a seance? A book group where they're reading a book about a seance? Sea swimming, where somebody drowns and they need a seance? Night classes in seance management? Or bring a seance and buy a seance sale? Those are your options. What is the flyer publicising that catches Kate's eye that may or may not be what she gets up to in the next chapter? A play, a book group, sea swimming, night classes, or a bring and buy sale? So we're not going to have an episode tomorrow. I need to write some more pivot. I need a day where I can do that. So I will see you Thursday night at 10 p.m. And we'll bring and buy sale. Oh, Jenny's already in there with the bring and buy sale. Yeah, all right, okay. A bring and buy sale. My friend wrote a book about sea swimming. Oh, I just think people that sea swim are mental. Absolutely crazy. Can someone translate bring and a yard sale, Canada? It's a yard sale. Okay. There you go. That's what it is. So there you go. I'll see you Thursday night at 10 p.m. Thanks everybody for coming. You have no idea how much this has cheered me up after an evening of putting numbers into a spreadsheet and being sad. So thank you very much, and I'll see you Thursday. Bye.